Hi, this is Paul Palmer and
Natasha Todorvic Cowan, great to be with you, Paul. Looks like we're going to play games again.
yeah, I, I think we are. I think we're talking about how to get from one place to another.
So, look, if you've got an organization, and I know you deal with pharma all the time, and you specialize in helping them when they've had a maybe critical inspection that maybe didn't go as well as they wanted. I mean, how do you help them get from here to there or wherever?
Well, the important thing is to understand what the problem is now. So when you go and the pharmaceutical company has a regulatory inspection, then it's because it's because they're maintaining a license usually. But if you have critical findings, then the inspectors have found specifics wrong with the organization. But the problem with that is you don't know whether it's isolated. So the first thing you have to do when you look at addressing that inspection finding, addressing that critical observation, then you have to see where you are now. And what I mean by where you are now is I would talk to the people, I would do an audit myself, and I would start to understand, is this a one-off problem if they just found an isolated incident, or is it throughout the whole organization? And do we have to do a maybe full retraining of the team? Maybe we have to update or amend the systems and processes. Maybe somebody's left that was the kingpin, the central point for all the decision making, and in their absence, everybody's just running riot because the systems are not detailed enough for the decision making to work anymore. So the first point, auditing, is right, where are we starting from? What are we dealing with? What is it that we need to address? And then, of course, you've got to consider, actually, where do we want to get to? Because perfection is rare. And in pharmaceuticals, perfection doesn't really exist because you've always got a changing destination. The regulations are always going up. So I look at where we're going from, help them identify a plan, often do the plan for them, and then identify who in the team I'm going to work with to guide them towards reaching the destination.
Well, I love that you have all of that thought through so well because so few people spend the time on trying to figure out where are we starting from? What are the conditions here? What's the potential in our folks? Is there a core underlying problem that's caused a cascade effect that's systemic and endemic to the problems? And so often it's we've got this, we understand it, let's fix it, that's the goal, let's get the goal. And 70% of the time folks fail to get the goal.
Usually because they haven't identified the totality of the problem in the first place.
Well, they're missing the problem.
Yeah. They're just getting, it's like strategy versus tactics.
Yes. Yes.
The individual issue is equivalent to a tactic. So you fix that one bit of the problem, but you haven't looked at the overall strategy.
And thinking that is the strategy, confusing the tactics for the strategy.
Yeah, that's interesting actually, because earlier in the week, somebody asked me what the difference was.
Good, good. And I think far too often people don't understand what that difference is. And I actually use these two phrases with a leader the other day, which was, as you know, culture eats strategy for breakfast.
Yeah.
Right. So we've heard that before. Well, what does that mean? That means you can have the best strategy in the world. And if the fundamental starting point is your culture, which it often is, always is, and you don't understand that culture, you're not going to understand where you're starting from, how to go through all of those wonderful points on your map, and how to get to the end. And then, of course, the second one is no strategy, good strategy survives contact with the enemy.
Sorry. No good strategy survives contact with the enemy.
Yeah, meaning the strategy is always fabulous, great, wonderful. The implementation, different.
Yeah. So, for example, going back to the observations, the critical observations, often people will want to focus just on what the inspector said, but you have to broaden the scope. As you'll always see in the report, an audit is just a snapshot in time. This needs to be applied to the rest of the systems and processes and often the equipment and facilities within the company. So you've got a company that's got 5 manufacturing sites and they implement preventive action for one site because that's who had the critical observation. And then 6 months later, the same inspector or maybe the same authority or maybe one that's had the report shared because that's what they do, goes in and looks for the same issue at the next site for the same company, which has been corrected 6 months ago with the original site. They've
Yeah.
got the same thing.
Yeah, because it's systemic, it's endemic, it's cultural, it's part of where they are. And we will build a playbook for change, but that also includes that analysis of where are we starting from, where are we going to, what are the pieces we need to consider as we're going from your starting point to your finish point to make sure it doesn't bog down and go the way the stats go, which is 70% failure rate.
You maybe have one more idea just then, because I tend to go from
cover that in another one.
I tend to yeah, I tend to jump steps. So you can see on this map behind us, we've got some crossover points and overlaps and the way that I tend to operate, because I conceptually understand the start point, the middle point, and all the steps in between, I can often skip stages.
Well, you're thinking ahead because you know all of them.
Exactly. But
Which
the
is
people
very
I'm working
different.
with don't.
And they don't. Exactly.
And they have to be taken through stage by stage by stage.
Yeah.
For a change to be successful. And I do that because I know that the people have to come along as well, not just me.
Yeah.
And it makes for an interesting, sometimes frustrating engagement with clients, but I enjoy the success so much that I still like doing it.
Well, and you're taking for granted your own skill and what's natural to you.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I think that's what happens when you're an expert. You do take a whole bunch for granted, and you're condensing steps because you know what they are. You've traveled that road so often. But for someone who's coming on that road the first time, they miss the first turn. They might miss the second turn. They get somewhere and they're confused and they have to take a U-turn and start all over. So you help them shortcut that journey.
Yeah. Back to the start and do it all properly.
Exactly.
Okay, Natasha, I think we need to finish there for today.
All right.
Talk to you again soon. That's Paul.
I'm looking forward to it. And Natasha signing out.